I don't really know where to start with all of this. Okay. Hey guys, um, bear with me through this video. It's gonna be a long one. And I'm a millennial who has no idea how to use his phone, so stick with me. I've kind of gone back and forth whether or not I should make a video or post something, but a lot of people in my life have encouraged me to kind of be vocal about everything that I'm going through, and it's a lot. I think it's important for myself to be able to talk about a lot of this big stuff and feel like I have support, but I think it's also important that, if someone else out there that's watching this um, comes across it and has this thing going on, I hope that it helps them or at least gets the word out about all of this. So with that being said, I kind of wanted to jump on to social medias and YouTube and TikTok and try and get the word out because essentially I want to start a vlog series that documents my recent diagnosis of something called Chiari's Malformation, type 1. It's a rare brain condition. Ironically enough, September actually happens to be Chiari's Awareness Month. So with all of that being said, buckle in. So, for as long as I can remember, I have struggled with things like ADHD and dyslexia and, a lot of learning disabilities in general. But, growing up, I always knew that certain things were going to be a struggle. And as I got older, I kind of figured out different ways to kind of deal with these things, figuring out how to read, going to therapists, taking medications. That got me by for a long time, and then it wasn't until recently, within the last, I'd say, year or two, that I started getting recurring migraines. But things really kind of came to a head about a month and a half ago. I was at work. For those of you who don't know, I do work at a hospital here, luckily. And I was at work one day and I was feeling weird. I was telling my coworkers, like, hey, like, I feel weird. I feel off. I feel like I'm drunk. I feel like I'm not just drunk. I feel like I'm so drunk that I cannot walk correctly. I've got tunnel vision. It was weird. At that point, one of my doctors pulls me in, does an EKG on me, my blood pressure, totally fine. They kind of recommend that I go to the ER, and I'm stubborn. So at that point I said, okay, yeah, I'm going to go to the ER. And then I went home and went to sleep immediately. I got home hardly. I don't remember driving home. I know. As soon as I got home, I passed out with my shoes on, with my pants on, my keys still in my hands, just in my bed. Woke up 6.5 hours later. And I was like, something's weird. Shook it off, and I decided to go to work the next day. And again, because I work at a hospital, I walk in and my doctors are like,
Why are you here? What did the ER say?
and then they proceed to send me to the ER. I go to the ER, and at that point, they do a CT scan on me, some blood work, a bunch of stuff. I chat with some doctors, and ultimately, they diagnose me with Chiari's Malformation 1. There's 4 different types of Chiari's malformations. Most teenagers and adults get diagnosed with type 1. And it's not usually until later, but it is something that is hereditary and something that I've had my whole life, actually. But because my brain is constantly growing and is still developing or just finished developing, it is now causing some issues. So you might be thinking,
That's a lot.
But what is Chiari's? So, essentially, Chiari's is where the cerebellum tonsil, which is the very bottom part of the brain, it grows too large and it actually goes through the little hole in the back of your skull that is meant for your spinal cord. And so when that happens, it actually causes lots of issues. It causes blockages in that area, or it can cause blockages further down in the spinal cord. So, Chiari's malformation, there are 4 types. Type 1 is the type that I have, and it's the most common. Type 2 is called Arnold Chiari's, and that's usually linked to spinal bifida, which is a spinal deformation. So that's when your spine is deformed and it affects near the skull, which causes lots of problems. Type 3 ends up being something that typically is super rare. All of your brain tissue is coming out of your brain. Type 4 is generally super rare and often found during childbirth, but it's when the cerebellum tonsils are not formed at all. There's none, or they're extremely lacking, which typically means that life cannot continue. Those are the 4 types. Like I said, I have type 1. Generally, Chiari affects 1 in 1,000 people. It's pretty rare. Oftentimes, a lot of people get misdiagnosed because the symptoms often are migraines, vertigo, or even just anxiety. So, if you don't have a doctor or a team who's super invested in your health or your care, oftentimes a lot of patients end up having to just advocate for themselves and until someone listens to them, which often is a lot of women and a lot of women of color. So I'm very lucky and I'm very blessed to have been diagnosed, and luckily there are treatments for it and medications. I'm kind of gonna go a little bit into that now. Recently, like I said, was diagnosed with it about a month ago, and since I was diagnosed with it, I kind of have bounced back and forth from my neurologist to my neurosurgeon. When I first met with my neurosurgery team, it was not big enough to operate on, and at that point, I was having fairly minimal symptoms. But within the weeks following, symptoms started to increase. I was having full blackout moments. I was having moments where my brain would just fully turn off. I'd be talking mid sentence, gibberish. I would come back from lunch, I'd go to type in my password, and brains to hand, I I would not be able to control my hands. I'm all of a sudden not able to type at all. And I would have these dizzy spells where I would all of a sudden feel drunk or feel like I was being drugged, and which is extremely scary and very debilitating. Luckily, I have a job that is very understanding and is kind of able to support me and push me into the spaces that I need to be put. Shout out to St. Alphonsus, Boise. About a week ago, they decided to do some additional scans on my neck because they did a MRI of my brain, and they actually found at the very base of my MRI image, they found a small blockage at the base of the image. They requested we do more imaging, and upon doing imaging of my neck, they found that I have a 28 by 6 millimeter blockage in my neck. This blockage is called a syrinx, and essentially it's the reason why I've been suddenly feeling all of these symptoms. The Chiaris is creating my cerebellum tonsil to grow outside of my skull, causing my spinal cord to kink like a hose. And because of that, my spinal fluid is building up inside of my spinal cord. Obviously, that's bad, and it's the reason why I've been having motor function issues, speech issues, confusion, memory loss. All of these things have been because of this. The next move is to do something called decompression surgery on my skull. They're going to take a small portion out of the back of my skull and a small chunk of my C1 vertebrae off. And they'll take a patch essentially, and that will cover the section. Not only will it cover it, it protects the area, and it also allows extra room in the event that my tonsils do come out of that hole again. It doesn't cause as much damage to my spinal cord. The doctors want to do this surgery to prevent any future blockages and any further nerve damage to my spinal cord. Luckily, the surgery has great statistics in success rate. They're saying that my symptoms may improve 70 to 80%. Otherwise, the other 20 to 30%, my symptoms will stay the same or dormant. That is the goal. I feel extremely confident with my surgery team. Shout out to Dr. Chutka. He is the best of the best in terms of neurosurgery. He is the guy that you want, and he's the best neurosurgeon on this half of the country. So I couldn't be luckier in terms of my team. I feel extremely confident about that. And in terms of brain surgery, this is fairly minor. It's technically a skull surgery. I would be lying to say that I'm not like very terrified. This has been weighing on me heavily, but if you know me in real life, you know that I tend to be a more positive person and, glass half full person. Um, so I'm trying to stick to what I know and stick to positivity because there is lots of positive here. While it is a very scary diagnosis and it will be something that I have to manage now for the rest of my life, I feel really good about my surgery team. I feel good about them finding it this early. I feel good about me being young and in good health enough to have a surgery option like this. And I'm thankful that I have friends and family around me that are able to support me in the way that I need. So there's lots of things to be positive about, while it is the most terrifying thing I've ever gone through. Sorry. Just trying again to be very open and uh, raw about this because I don't really know what the next, few months entails. Um, but I know that I have to do it, and I know that it's going to be to my benefit, and I'm looking forward to, you know, living a life that is a little less stressful or painful or I don't know. I'm just excited to see what a life without uh, all of this will be like. With all of that being said, I have my consultation for my surgery in about a week and a half. Um, I'm going to be trying to document as much of this journey as I can. Good, the bad, all of it, because I hope that it helps someone out there who maybe just got diagnosed with this, or for people who don't know about this condition. That is my goal. It's going to be hard and going to be a challenge, but I hope that you guys stick around. I don't know. I've decided that I wanted to share all of this because when I first found out, I felt very isolated and alone and scared, and I went searching for answers. And honestly, even now, like, I cannot watch or read anything about the surgery or my condition without getting like severely nauseous. So hopefully someone out there who's watching this, who's searching for answers, can watch this and feel a little less alone, feel like they have someone in their corner. Hopefully these videos can raise even a shred a bit of awareness about the condition. I just want to document my own journey so that hopefully one day I can look back once this is all done and um, feel proud of myself for going through this hard thing and this hard time in my life. Solely just that reason. But I know that other people will be watching along, and I hope I don't scare you away. So this is where I'm at. Follow along if you want. Don't. That's all right by me. Like I said, this is mostly for myself. And I appreciate any support that I get along the way. Lord knows I'm gonna need it. Appointments, surgeries, post-op care. You're gonna see it all. Thank you for listening and letting me be a little vulnerable online. It's not really easy, but none of this is. I'll see you guys in my next video.